Look at this lovely little landscape I made here. There's never a bad time of year to do a nice, sunny, springy landscape in watercolor. What I want to show you today is how to get a simple sky and get some simple shading going. This is a la the style of Grant Wood. And to do a little troubleshooting. Should there be a problem, what we can do to fix it. So what I did was I took a piece of watercolor paper, and you'll see I've got a little line down the middle because we're going to show you the before and the after. And what I did was a common mistake that everybody does, they will paint the whole sky in all one color and forget about possibly leaving some negative space open to create some great clouds like this. So can you kind of see the difference here? So what happens if I didn't do that, Mrs. Wagner? How can I get that same kind of effect? So I'm going to show you that. And this, at first, was done with wet, and I put the blue over the top. And you can see I didn't leave much negative space, and it kind of just melted into one another. So what I'm going to do now is I do have my cup of water. I have my trusty paper towels that I always hold in my hand so that I can wipe my brush clean. I'm going to find a medium-sized brush right now, like this on this little thing. And I'm going to take a little more blue. I'm going to take a little more blue. And you're going to say, Ms. Wagner, you're nuts. Look, I'm making this kind of flat, zigzaggy stroke. Okay? Look at the stuff that's left over. They kind of look like clouds. I just cleaned my brush off, and I'm going to just take a little bit of water, and I'm going to soften the edges up. You see that? I'm softening the edges. I'm not going over the whole thing, and I don't want to lose all that great negative space. I'm going to take a little more water. And you can see it's actually starting to work for me. The water is doing some of the blending for me. Look at, I'm getting this kind of cool effect. I'm not going to touch too much of that. What I am going to do is I'm going to bring in a little bit of this purpley color. And I want to overlap this a little bit. I might even put a little bit up over here in the dark spot. Look, my big long Z's again. It's getting even ahead of me. It's starting to blend before I even get a chance to get there. And I'm going to blend this in a little bit. I like that little doohickey. Now, can you see the difference? Look. I'm actually going to take a little orange now. And I'm going to make a little orange zigzag. I'm going gently. I'm going to clean my brush off. In fact, I'm going to put it here so that you can see me clean my brush off. Wipe it dry, take a little bit of water, and I'm just going to blend that in. I'm going to pull a little bit of that purple up into here because I don't want it to look like stripes. In fact, I'm going to take a little bit and put a little bit over the top. And look, the water is actually blending this for me. I'm not even doing it. It's giving me these puffy effects, which is very nice. And I do want to bring it across the whole sky here. And you know what? A little bit of yellow wouldn't hurt, especially down here where the sun is falling behind. I may just pull a little more orange down in here. I don't want it to look stripy. And there you have it. Now, let's take a look at the before and the after. You see, so you're not stuck with that. If you didn't get this effect, if it came out all too flat, you can end up with something like this by working with some darker colors over the top and leaving those light blue areas or whatever light color your undercoat was open to create some very dramatic kind of watercolor sky. Now, moving on, how do I want you to shade these little mounds here? You can actually see I've got two and they're running together. The simplest way to do that, I'm going to hold the paper this way. And I'm going to make some shade of green, which is going to be green with some red in it. There's green. Let me get some red. So here's my shade. Watch this. I'm going to start with the one in the back. We work from back to front. So here's my shade. And I'm literally going to show you how to make this a stripe. Look at that. I'm just going to leave the stripe there. And then I'm going to clean my brush. And I'm going to get some real green, which is the hue, the actual color. And I'm going to put it right next to it. There it is. I'm not making it too heavy or too thick because this is in the background. And then I'm just taking my brush. Look, I'm going to dry this off a little bit. And with a little bit of water, watch how, oh, this is already blending down on the bottom. I'm blending this green in with that background color I had, so that I don't have stripes anymore. And I'm just going to go over this a little bit. I don't want my brush to be too wet because I don't want to lose that darkness there. Let me try and turn that for you. I may even want to, this would be the time, if I want a little more green in there, or maybe I want to just put a little bit of yellow back in here. Now's the time to do that. See, I had just a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to take a dry brush now and maybe just a little bit of green on it, a little bit. And I'm going to pull it up in there. It's already doing it itself, kind of. But it's just a matter of blending, putting the stripes, and letting it blend. And if you look closely, I'm getting some cool effects in here. It almost looks like trees in the distance. Very, very neat. I'm going to dry my brush again because this is getting a little wet. And I'm going to dab this. And look, it's blended. That's all I need from you. This one I need to make a little bit darker because I don't want to lose this. And we tend to get darker and brighter as we come forward. So let me make a little more shade. And I might actually watch this. This is a possibility for you. Look, I have the bright green on there. Many of you may already have this, where it's very, very green. And now I'm going to blend that in with a clean brush into that. I got a little bit of water. I'm going to blend that in. But now you're saying, Ms. Wagner, where's the shade? Watch this. I'm going to blend it right on here. I have this thing for this purpley, red, violet kind of color that's in your watercolor box. And look, while it's wet, I don't know if you can see it shiny. While it's wet, I'm actually putting it right on here. So not only am I making the shade, but it's kind of creating this little bit of color for me. And especially that I'm moving more to the front and I can see more. Look, it tends to make it a little more interesting. So I've got the shade. I am going to throw a little more real green in there. And if it got too purpley for me, I could come in now with a little bit of green and tone that down. And then I'm drying my brush off again. You don't want your brush too wet. And look, I'm just blending the hue in with the tint. And I'm getting some very interesting designs up in here too. I want to get rid of that little bit of white though. Do you see how we go from shade to hue to tint? And how we can turn a plain old ordinary sky like this into one that looks like this by using these zigzaggy flat lines and then using a clean, moist brush to just soften the edges in where it's appropriate. Now look, I didn't soften them here that much, and look, I got this great effect. Just a little bit that the water did for me. Don't overdo it, please. Have fun making landscapes.